This is the number one thing that I teach all my students. The first thing they always say, "Hey, Dustin, I found a great city to invest in. I've already got 5 realtors sending me deals." I say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's say you bought one of those properties. Who's going to manage that?" And they said, "I don't know." I said, "Come on, like you're putting the cart way before the horse. Realtors are the last thing because you need to make sure that the business is going to run perpetually without you, because the last thing you want is another job."
All right, we are live. I am Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow, and we have the world's leading and most comprehensive coaching and consulting firm for long-term residential property management entrepreneurs. For over a decade and a half, we have brought innovative strategies and optimization to the property management industry. At DoorGrow, we have spoken to thousands of property management business owners, coached, consulted, cleaned up hundreds of businesses, helping them add doors, improve pricing, increase profit, simplify operations, and build and replace teams. We are like bar rescue for property managers. In fact, we have cleaned up and rebranded over 300 businesses, and we run the leading property management mastermind with more video testimonials and reviews than any other coach or consultant in the industry. At DoorGrow, we believe that good property managers can change the world, and that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. Now, let's get into the show. I'm hanging out today with Dustin Heiner, who is successfully unemployed, according to his shirt, for those that can't see this later. So Dustin, welcome to the DoorGrow Show.
Jason, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love property managers. I'm a real estate investor, bought property since 2006. I don't know, got 30 plus properties, 750 apartment unit complexes, and hotels I invest in. And I love not doing any work because my property managers are amazing. It takes a lot of time finding the right property managers, but in the end, they make my life easier, and I love paying them. They're only one of two people I love to pay: my accountant and my property managers, because they make my life easier. But I love that you have this show. I'm super pumped to be on. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I love the positivity because a lot of my clients get a lot of, how do we say it? Shit, really. And they feel unappreciated in a lot of, so I know there's a lot listening. They're like, man, I want investors like this guy. But yeah, I love that you love paying property managers. I think I've said on one of my TikToks or reels, I said, the biggest mistake landlords make with rental properties is not hiring a property manager.
I don't want to deal with tenants personally. Like, I invested so that my property would work for me. And I did not want to handle talking to tenants. In fact, I did at the beginning. I started talking to tenants, but I found out I'm a pushover because it's my property and I'm trying to be nice and everything like that. And it's so much better when there's a middleman that's going to be there. I tell my property managers, use me as the bad guy. Like, say, "Oh, this landlord, he's a jerk, but this is what we got to do." Well, I want to help them to make it easier on them, but in the end, they make my life easier. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, one thing you and I both know, property managers should be investing themselves too. They should be grabbing properties. If you know of if you're a property manager, you will eventually know somebody, an investor, who's going to be selling a house. Well, shoot. Instead of like, oh, point this over to investor, which I get lots of property managers sending me deals, say, "Hey, this guy's looking to sell." I'm like, "Great, and I'll buy it." Much better would be if you guys bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a property manager, you should really understand and know real estate investing. Like you're basically the advisor for your clients to do this. And you have a pulse, an understanding of the market that nobody else has. And so leaning on a good property manager can also they could be an invaluable resource of knowledge. Like before you get into a property, one of the smartest things you could do is go ask the property managers, is this a good investment, or is this a good area, or is this a good idea? And they're like, no, you should not have a short-term rental property out in the middle of the desert that nobody wants to go to. Like you're not going to cash flow. But the guru I listened to said I could, yeah, don't do that.
Okay. Yeah, no, and you're 100% right. So I personally, I've coached thousands of people to buy properties, and I like buy and hold. Like it could be long term, short term, medium term, even co living. But we're going to buy and hold these properties. I've got 5 kids, so I'll give these properties to my kids. I started investing back in 2006, just kept buying property after property, and then I realized when you get cash flow, when you get money coming in every single month from every single property, then you get financial independence, and everything else on top of that is just gravy. And I consider my property manager my quarterback of my team. Like the football team, they're going to make me money. They're going to protect me. They're going to make sure that everything is going right. They're the quarterback of my team. And so when I find a good property manager, I hold on to them. In fact, I love find. Well, here's what I do also. So in finding a good property manager, I do interviewing. I don't just grab first person because I personally feel like it's best to, not everybody can work with everybody. Meaning somebody might not work well with me. I might have a bad personality to them. They're like, oh, I don't like this guy. He's too hyper. He's got too much energy.
Mm.
Or they might say, hey, this is a great person to work with. And so what I love to do is when I grab a property manager and I just keep buying properties and keep giving it to the property manager, they keep doing well. But I mean, honestly, in the end, I wanted financial freedom. And I knew that as I bought real estate over time, the value goes up. But the biggest thing is I invest for cash flow so that money comes in every single month. And give you a case in point, your property managers are sending money. Like if you're a property manager, you're sending money to your investors, which is great because you're making money, but you're also making them money. But at the same time, imagine that money coming into your pocket.
Okay. I love this. I think the clients listen to this, or even property managers just listen to this and be like, I should probably send this out to all my clients so they could listen to this because this guy knows something, and I want all my clients to see us in this light. This is a great light to see us in. So let's go back because we skipped qualifying you. Tell us about yourself. Qualify yourself. Why should investors that these property managers send this podcast episode to and say, listen to this guy Dustin, you want to be like Dustin. Why should
Absolutely.
investors be listening to you?
Totally. You know what? I'm even going to tell you a quick story of what really shoved me into real estate investing. I started investing back in 2006, but I was not born with money. In fact, I was born into a very poor family, and I did what everybody is taught. We're taught this same exact path. You go to school, you get good grades. You take those good grades and you go to college or university and get thousands and thousands of dollars into debt. And then you get a piece of paper or a degree, is what it's called. And you take that degree and you shop around and you try to find, a job, a quote unquote career from someplace. And so I'm doing that exact same thing. In fact, Jason, I get the most stable, secure job you could ever think of. I got a job in the local county government in California doing IT. So California is not going away, government's not going away, and IT is definitely not going away because I'm just like risk averse. Well, at the same time, I bought one rental property. And that one rental property, I remember that check I got from the property manager. It was $317. Like, this is great. I need to buy more and more properties. But you know what happens? Life started getting in the way. My wife and I started having kids, kid after kid. Eventually, and this is what really got me to make sure I started investing. So I stopped because life got in the way buying properties. But my wife and I started having kids. And when my wife had our fourth child, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers, all the good stuff. Well, after 2 weeks, I go back to work. And on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, Dustin, would you please come in the office? I said, sure. And I paused for a second. I hung up the phone. I thought, why in the world are they calling me in the office? Like, this isn't normal. Is not normal. And I've also seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good sign. And I remembered
No.
a little bit before, right before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors or some rumbling going on in the county that there could potentially be layoffs. I immediately shook it off. I said, there's no way. I've got great seniority here. My boss is saying I do a great job. So I get up.
Oh man.
And I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short. But
Mhm.
every single step that I took, it felt like the hallway got longer and longer and longer. And it felt like my feet became lead bricks because as I was walking, I started thinking I could potentially get laid off. Well, I get down the hallway, I turn the corner, and I see my boss's door. His door's closed, and I see a secretary there, super sweet, nice old lady. She says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And I go and I take my seat, and she's kind of sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I
Yeah.
take my seat and I start thinking about my life. This entire plan that other people told me, I started thinking, if I lose my job, did I just waste my life doing this? And oh my goodness, we just had our fourth child. If I can't provide for our kids, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that
Mm,
make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a coworker of mine with a piece of paper in her hands. She is noticeably distraught, very upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you could tell her world has been rocked. She passes by me, and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come in the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And
yeah.
this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And this is the reason why I tell the story. So I take that layoff notice and I go back to my desk and I realize two things sitting there at my desk, just getting laid off. Number one, I need to get another job to be able to provide for my family. So, really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county, another department wasn't having those issues. Second thing I realized, I need to make sure this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody can take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I said, I am an investor. It may so
Well,
happen that 100% of my money came from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. So quickly, fast forward the story. Started buying property after property after property, each one making me 250, 350, $550 a month. I still own all of them. And now fast forward, I go to my new boss after 30 plus properties. I say, hey, boss, I'm laying you off. We laugh and he says, Dustin, what are you going to do? I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate that makes me money without even working. So, last quick part of the story. Remember that short hallway that got longer and longer and longer? Well, I would walk to and from my car to my job a mile and a half every day. I was too frugal to pay for parking. Well, this last walk, I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never need a job again because I had money coming in from my property. So, for you listening, I want you to realize if you have your own business, if you're working for somebody else, if you have real estate that makes you money without even working, grows over time. In fact, every 15 years, real estate doubles in value. I mean, that alone is just should blow your mind. And then the cash flow that it makes. So in the end, what I suggest is if you make your own value coming from what you put into your own investments, i.e., rental properties, you're actually going to have a floor of income. Now, just same thing with a property manager, you get your landlords. And let's say you have 100 units. Well, you have a floor of income because that's normal income that comes in. Same thing with real estate investing. Let's say, God forbid, all those landlords that say this is not working out, we're moving. Well, you have your properties that has a floor of income coming in for you, and then it takes so much stress off of you. So I'll pause the story because you've probably got plenty of questions, Jason.
I love it. What a journey. And, there's always something that kind of thrusts us into a new state or into even into entrepreneurism. And, I was suddenly a single dad trying to figure out how do I have time to spend with my kids when I'm stuck at a job at HP because I was in IT. I'm like, I haven't even earned a week off yet. And I'm going to get them for a week and to spend time with them. Like, how's that going to work? Like, how do I get to be dad? So, yeah, so sometimes I joke my kids are what made me finally leap to become an entrepreneur. And I love this idea of real estate allowing you to fire your boss or fire yourself from the job. Explain to people now what you do and your programs and all the stuff that you've built since, because you've done a lot of big things. And
Yeah.
and so I want people to make sure they understand Dustin's a badass and he knows a few things.
Thanks, man. Well, here's what really happened. So, as I was quitting my job 2014, 2015 ish, I was 37 years old, and I had so many people asking me how I was not working for somebody else and still making money to feed my family. I told them I invest in real estate. And they would always ask the second question, well, can you show me? And so I just started showing friends and family members how to do it. And then I realized two things. Number one, it was fun. And number two, I had plenty of free time because when you're not working for somebody else, when you're not having like if you're a property manager, you have many bosses. Let's say you have 10 different landlords you're working. They have 10 different bosses. That's really what it comes down to. And if you don't have any bosses bossing you around, you have 40 plus or more hours of your life back to do whatever you want. And so I just started helping people. So fast forward, I started a podcast, the Master Passive Income podcast. You were on it, and that podcast in 2015 over 2 million downloads now of me just coaching. It's usually a solo show, like literally a solo show where I don't even, it's just me teaching how to do this, but over 2 million downloads because I just want to give this out. Then wrote four books, coached thousands of people now, even have a live event bringing hundreds of real estate investors together, but all for a goal. Here's the main goal. It's to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. And the big reason why I decided to have this goal was because the more people that I serve in my life, the more money they make and the more money I make in the end. And so now everything from coaching thousands of people to having live events where we're just coaching even more and helping even more to books and podcasts, YouTube, yeah, you name it, like social media, Instagram, I'm over 100, 200,000, almost 200,000 followers on it now, just giving. And here's the big thing, a takeaway that I would love to share with everybody listening. For you listening, you need to realize if you serve and if you try to serve people, then your life is going to get better. The more people that I serve, my goodness, I make so much more money. But the great thing is, it's not a win lose. It's not like somebody loses in order for me to win. No, it should be a win win win. And so now everything I do at Master Passive Income to the free courses to the paid coaching, all that sort of stuff, it's to help people to invest in real estate to get 40 plus hours of life back and become successfully unemployed.
It's amazing. And that's just really, really awesome. You're doing big things. You're doing big things. And you're not the typical property management client. How many different property managers do you have? Because your portfolio is spread out now, or is it
Five
all
different
in one?
states. Yeah, correct.
Five
Five
different
different
states.
states. I think we have five main property managers.
Yeah.
Yeah, five main property managers that I work with.
And how many units in total do
So
you?
single family home, like when I say single family, 4 units and below. So I would consider anything 4 units and below be residential. We have 33, 32, 30 plus single family homes, short term, mid term, and even long term. Then we have two large apartment complexes. One's near Nashville, 350 units. Another one's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 325 units. And so we have great property managers for those properties. Then also I've invested in some hotels. And so we have the management company for that. But what I found, and this is the number one thing that I teach all my students, lots of them, because here's what the first thing they always say. Hey, Dustin, I found a great city to invest in. I've already got 5 realtors sending me deals. I say, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's say you bought one of those properties. Who's going to manage that? And they said, I don't know. I said, come on, like you're putting the cart way before the horse. Realtors are the last thing because you need to make sure that the business is going to run perpetually without you. Because the last thing you want is another job. In fact, this is the one big thing that I see when a mom and pop investor, somebody buys one property and then they buy a second or third, maybe they get to 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8, and they're managing it themselves and they cannot scale. And I know your audience, everybody knows about scaling because you want to scale your business, the property management business. Well, you can't scale if you're the only person doing all this sort of stuff. And so here's another question I get that people, other investors, or even my students say, Dustin, how do you afford a property manager in your properties? I say, I don't afford a property manager. Like, I don't pay my taxes on any of my properties. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay for my property manager. I don't pay for repairs, meaning I don't have to get a job to pay for any of that. My tenants pay that in the form of rents. And then I make sure I do not buy a property unless all of those expenses are accounted for, even repairs, vacancy factor, and especially property manager. And that's the thing that most people don't do is realize, let's account for all those expenses, but then utilizing your property manager well enough. Here's the big question. And so all your audience is property managers. So
Hmm.
they probably rarely get this question, but here's my favorite question that I ever ask property managers. One of the first ones I said, if you would invest your money in this city now, what area would it be? What zip code would, like, where would
Mhm.
it be? That is gold. Yeah, I've asked actually the opposite question. Where should I not invest that city? And property managers say, I probably shouldn't answer that because, discrimination and all that sort of stuff. So the question is better. Where would you invest your money?
Yeah, where
And
would you?
then, yeah, you're going to understand the entire market because the property manager, but you also, Jason, were awesome. The question is, would you manage this property not after you bought the property, but before you buy the property? That's a big thing because a lot of people buy a house because they listen to TikTok gurus and they just bought a house and oh yeah, it should work out. Well, if you don't have any to manage it, it's no longer an asset. it's a liability. So how much better is you ask the property manager beforehand, especially if you are investing, you're seeing, or sorry, if you're a property manager, you're seeing where the best properties are, where the best clients are, the best tenants, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes 100, 1,000 times over. Like they have, they have a lot of anecdotal data, right? And data. So the bad path then is, you kind of mentioned, is to go to a realtor first, get a property, and then maybe go find a property manager. That's a really bad path, and that's kind of the default path that a lot of people would go down, and they're just headed towards a potential train wreck. Odds are that the realtor's incentive is not to just get you into the best investment
No,
solution.
it's to sell a property. That's all it
It's
is.
to get the most money on a deal. And then you're picking this property and you have no idea if it's going to work out. And then you might not even realize you need a property manager. And you're saying start with the property manager,
Absolutely.
ask them the area, get their advice and clarity, and find the property manager that you would want to be able to manage this. Like, find a good property manager first, and then make some good decisions. Then let them help you make some good
Well,
decisions.
how I would explain it is I'm going to find the experts, and it could be also definitely property manager, but think of also inspectors, mortgage brokers, contractors, plumbers, handymen, insurance agents. I'm not the expert. In fact, like I said, I've coached thousands of people now to invest in real estate successfully. And sometimes they'll ask me, "Hey, Dustin, you invest in this city. You're the expert. Tell me, like, where should I blah blah blah?" It's like, tell me all this stuff. I said, "Whoa, I'm not the expert at all. In fact, I don't want. I might know a little bit, but I don't want to be the expert. I hire experts. I hire them. So if you're a property manager, what you need to be thinking is, well, number one, you are the expert in that area because you're currently investing your time in your business to build up for landlords to utilize you. Well, that's number one. But who else would you actually want to start working with? Now, personally, what I find is the property manager. And so, if you're not a property manager, if you're an investor listening to this, your property manager is absolutely your quarterback. I treat them as best as I can. Like, I treat them so well because they take care of me and they want to take care of me. If I'm a jerk, if I'm like, withholding money, or like, we don't need those repairs, and they're trying to do their job and I'm holding them back from it, they're not excited about working with me. And so what I want is, as best I can, my property manager to look favorable on me so they could take care of my property so I can have all my life back to play with my kids.
Yeah. I mean, this very much goes along with like Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan's idea of who, not how. Like, finding the right who instead of going around and trying to just find the what, like a property. Go find the who that can help you figure out how to do this instead of trying to figure out how to do everything on your own, which is the slowest path to growth, period.
Well,
Is
you
to do
can't
everything
scale
yourself.
that way. Yeah, you can't scale. If it's all about yourself, you can't scale. You can't get, like, all my 30 plus properties. I love saying this. So, a lot of people have heard of the book, The 4 Hour Work Week. Good book and all. Basically, the premise is make your life so that you only have to work 4 hours a week. Well, honestly, I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't even want to work 4 hours a month. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all of my properties because I get the property management statements. I verify everything looks good. But I'll say this also, my daughter, who's 16 years old, because I've coached thousands of people now, I coached her. She's my oldest, and all my other kids are going to do it. She bought her first property 4 months ago, and I coached her. She now does all the bookkeeping, basically, instead of me doing the work 30 minutes, I pay her to do it, and she oversees her property as well. And it is so much better when you have the experts first. One quick last thing, because you mentioned a really key. Most people, and I did this too, I went right to how do we find properties. In fact, my most downloaded podcasts are, because on Master Passive Income, I have lots of like how to find properties, how to fund properties, how to find property manager. Like, literally, it's just coaching. And the most downloaded are how to find and how to fund. Those are by far, because people think those are that's number one things that they don't have, but they believe that they need, which is not necessarily the case. Same thing on my YouTube channel. The most downloaded videos, I have one that's, I think, like 16 different ways to get creative financing if you don't have money yourself, how to buy properties with creative financing.
Yeah.
One of the most downloaded. But here's what I definitely got to say this. If you don't have your business that could run itself, because I always talk about building your business first. If you don't have your business that could run itself, then you're going to be losing money. And let me give you a quick example of what that looks like. Like, I buy a property that's going to be making me money every single month, and I don't buy it unless all expenses, property manager included, vacancy factor, repairs, all included, and I add on my profit. If I want to make $400 a month, I don't buy a house unless the price is low enough, interest rates right, all the expenses are right to where I'm making that profit every single month on that property. And then obviously rents go up. But here's what it's like if you do not build a business, you do not get the right people in place. Imagine a convenience store. You're going to start a convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all this sort of stuff. Well, you would not sign a lease on a location, open the doors and set a box of candy bars in on the ground. You wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. But what you would do is you'd build the business first. You get the gondolas, the shelving units that all the candy bars go on, the countertops, cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, managers, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. You build the entire business, get everybody the right people in the business, and then every property that I own is a piece of inventory that I put into my business. When you start realizing that even though you're an investor, you are a business owner that has inventory. Because I remember in 2006 when I first started investing, 2008 happened. 2008 happened and the crash happened. I knew so many real estate investors went bankrupt. In fact, I still talk. If anybody was investing back then, most likely you ask them, how did you do in 2008? Oh, I went bankrupt. Honestly, that's literally, that's the conversation happen all the time. But for me, I made more money. I was blown away. In fact, I was worried because I was just new to this. And because I was solely investing for cash flow. Now, appreciation will come. That's great, but I'm going to give these properties to my kids. But I was solely investing for cash flow, $500 a month, $600 a month. And because of that, sadly, they had to get foreclosure because of the economy and all that sort of stuff. But what did to the pool of renters? The pool went up. So there's more demand, supply's the same. In fact, I just buy properties and there's more renters. So my rents went up. I made more money in the crash when everybody else was going bankrupt because I was solely investing for cash flow. Let me say one more thing because I definitely want you to jump in. One more quick thing. Imagine that candy bar that you would buy to sell. If you had a candy bar business, if you can buy it for 50 cents and sell it for a dollar, and you knew all day, every day, you can buy it for 50 cents, sell it for a dollar, you think, how can I get more money? Well, you'll make money. But let's say, this is a great thing about real estate investing. Let's say you didn't even have 50 cents. It took you 25 cents to borrow 50. Well, you're out of pocket 75 cents. You still sell it for a dollar and you make 25 cents every single time. You would do that deal every day. And you would think, how can I get more money? You'd borrow it. But here's one thing you would not do. Same thing with real estate investing. You would not buy a candy bar for $2 if you could only sell it for a dollar. You do not
Right.
get into business to lose money. So I'll pause because you could probably get plenty of questions, but we want to build a business and make money.
No, I love your analogies. I love that you're equating it to like even just buying and selling candy bars, which maybe some of us did in elementary school as a side hustle, or our kids do sometimes. My daughter makes little rubber band, like little bracelets with different
Yeah.
colors, and she goes and sells them. And the materials cost very little, and then she's like building these bracelets and asks them what colors they want, and then she's selling them at a markup. She's like, I made like $20. Yeah, so we've done this as kids, but when you equate it to something so simple, because we look at real estate and the complexity and all the numbers, and we're like, this might make sense in the long run with some depreciation and then yeah, and you're like, let's keep this really simple. Let's like equate
Because
it to a
all that
candy
will
bar.
come like appreciation, depreciation, tax benefits, market appreciation over time, forced appreciation. Like when you buy a house, you fix it up, you guys know it'll make more money or it'll be worth more. All that will come, but income does not always come. So if you buy for income every single month from your property, could be long term, mid term, 30, 69 days, short term, or even co living. If you buy for that, you will always get wealth. If you buy, oh, I'm hoping it'll go up in value. Like I hope this candy bar, I'll buy it for $2. Hopefully from a dollar now, it'll be a $3. If you hope, you're going to be stuck holding the bag and it's going to hurt. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are investing for income. Because when you invest for income, everything else will always come. But if you invest for just appreciation, you will not necessarily get income. You won't necessarily get all the benefits of everything that comes with real estate.
Yeah. And the other thing is property managers often are one of the first to know if an existing client or owner wants to sell that property off. So they're great people to know if you want access to off-market deals. I'm sure the property managers you have would love to get all of their clients to sell their properties and give them to you because you're easy. You're like their dream client. Because they'll have a one-off, like super emotional, accidental investor that couldn't sell the property that's like driving them nuts, and like they want it to be a perfect time capsule for a year because grandma planted the flower bed and like Timmy etched his height in the door frame, and like they want it to be perfect so they can sell it a year later. And they're like, oh, and it's like 10 times to 100 times harder to deal with operationally for them. The operational costs are really extreme. It doesn't sound like you're calling your property managers all the time.
Let me say this. I don't want to talk to my property managers like month after
Right.
month after month. I don't want, I just want the money. And as long as everything's going well, which, because here's another thing. So if you're an investor, you want to make sure that your property managers understand your systems and procedures and processes. Like I have different property managers. They all treat all their landlords, everybody differently. But I say, when you're working with my properties, here's exactly how I want you to do it. And it's very simple. Things like, hey, rent's due on the first, late after the third. Then you put a 3-day notice on the door if they don't, and you get a late fee. And then once that 3-day notice is up, you start the eviction process. Like that's
And
clockwork.
this is
It's
pretty typical.
non-discriminate. Yes,
This is pretty typical. Like decent property managers are already doing this anyway. Like
it
this
should
is
be.
really standard stuff.
But I don't wanna talk to the property manager. They're great people. I don't hire them unless I like them. But at the same time, leave me alone so I can play with my kids. I could go to golf. I'm going to South Africa tomorrow for an investor trip. I just wanna live my life. Property manager, you take care of it, and if they are doing what I don't honestly, like, if they don't do well, meaning if there's it's not getting rented, or there's it's a month after month where we're not getting, rents paid, if things like that, then I'm like, "I gotta find somebody else because I don't wanna have to think about it. If I have to think about the property, then why do I need you?"
Yeah, this is a challenge. There are property managers listening right now. Pay attention to this. Because a lot of property management business owners that come to us, they're not setting healthy boundaries with their clients because their clients don't know what they need. And so a lot of times the clients will artificially create a worse property manager because they're like, I need this and I need that. And I want, oh, wait, how's the renting process going? And did you talk to some people? Did you show it? And like what they think? And they want to be so involved in the whole process. They're trying to micromanage the manager. And the manager's way better at this than them. By their own admission, they suck at this stuff and they don't like it. But then they're trying to micromanage the manager, and bad property managers let them do it. Like the worst property managers usually have the highest operational costs in their business because they give every tenant and every owner a blank check for their time. Call me anytime. And they have phone system set up so you can call them anytime and ask any question, and they don't have a good system. And so then they're wondering why they have. I had a client come to me once with 600 units under management in their business, and they were making $0. Property management can easily be death by a thousand cuts. I have seen inside thousands of property management companies, and there are a lot that are making very little money. And then like my wife, Sarah, she had a property management business with 260 units. She was pulling in 60 to 90% profit margin. It took her, it was a part-time job for her really. And she moved to Austin with me, and she managed these remotely. And these were C-class properties in Pennsylvania. We're talking $1,000 rent or less. This is like ghetto, like difficult tenants, difficult situations. And she had such strong boundaries and such good relationships with their owners in setting those boundaries that if they got needy or whatever, she would tell them that she was going to fire them. And they were desperate to keep her because most property managers suck because of some of these reasons. And so she set really strong boundaries. And so her business was easy. She eventually installed one part-time person, boots on the ground, to help her open up property, show property, whatever, because she couldn't be there to do that and to pick up the mail. And she had 60 to 90% profit margin. It's like ridiculous. And so this is one of the trainings we have in our platform that we coach clients on. Property management could be death by a thousand cuts very easily. So it's just as important as it is for you to find a good manager to partner with, for them to find good clients to partner with and to be picky about their clients, or to at least set better boundaries and expectations with their clients to help them be more like you.
Absolutely. And it has to be a mutually beneficial event where you guys are working together, just relationship. And like I said at the very beginning, I try to serve as many people as possible. The more people I serve in this life, the better my life gets, the better their life gets. And as long as it's a win win, in fact, one of my property managers, I pay them 12% of the rent. And the rent used to be, yeah, like so this is when I first started investing in, it was in Ohio in 2006. Prices of rent were like $500 from 10% to 12%, it was like, though $5. And I was like, yes, go ahead. And now these are renting for $1,000, but it's a hard area. It's like D plus C minus. I mean, it's a really rough area. In fact, I don't suggest any of my students invest there anymore because it's really, really rough. It's hard to find like this property manager. I found them diamond in the rough. They worked with them for 10 years and then he retired and his daughter took over. So she's doing great too. But all that to say, what you need to do is as you're hiring finding a right property manager. So if you're an investor and you're trying to find a right property manager, you really need to make sure that you're paying them accordingly. That's going to like I said,
Yeah,
10% to
don't try to
12%.
cheap out on them. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Like they're going to make my life easier. What I need to do as an investor, if I need to pay more for a property manager, I need to buy the property for less. I don't buy the property unless it pays for that good property manager. If I have to pay 15% for a good property manager, I don't buy the house unless I can afford that 15%. And in the end, my property manager in that one specific area that's like D plus to C minus, I don't talk to her because she's so fantastic and she just doesn't bother me. I just let her run with it and she does such a great job. And so it's just such a great beneficial environment.
Yeah, love it. I'm biased, but I believe DoorGrow creates the best property managers because we help them figure some of these really simple things that they need to get dialed in. Sometimes they can't even see. Like one of the things we've been rolling out with clients is a 3-tier hybrid model because different investors have different strategies. There's really 3 psychological profiles of buyers that are taught in pricing psychology, and those are the cheapos, the normals, and the premiums. And so you need a pricing model that is a better fit for them. And the cheapos usually are really hyper concerned about price. They're not really focused on the long term as much. They're short sighted. And so they're looking at what's the lowest fee I could get. And they're like cheaping out and they're making some big mistakes in the long run.
Let me add one thing with the cheapos. The cheapos will be the worst clientele. They will be the
Yes.
most problematic. It's just how life is. In fact, I'll give
Operational
you
cost is the highest with the cheapos. And
absolutely.
so one of the things that we coach our clients on is to make sure that they have these pricing models that balance between the a la carte of a cheapo and like you're going to pay for everything extra so that because then they're trying to gamble against the house. Property manager's the house and the property management should be winning, right? But a lot of times what property managers mistakenly do is they subsidize all of their lowest rent properties and their worst owners with their highest rent properties and their best owners. And they have properties in their portfolio they're actually losing money on. And sometimes they don't even realize this because they're not assessing them individually. And we're like, yeah, you should fire those. Like you should just let them go.
Especially if you're losing money on it.
It seems that is so obvious, but a lot of property managers have an entire section of their portfolio that's like 80, it's like the 80-20 rule. It's 80% of their stress and their work and their challenges, and it's like 20% of their profits.
And so here's a fun thing, like a thought. As you were saying this, it got to mind. If and when somebody is pulling their hair out, an investor pulling their hair out over a property or multiple properties, they're just going to sell. And because they're not good at investing. In fact, that's what I love to do is I coach people how to be good investors, how to make sure we're buying it right, how we're finding the right people, all that sort of stuff. Well, what's great is let's say you fire them as clients. You fire them and they're like, "Oh, I'm pulling my hair out. I'm just going to sell." And then eventually, a good landlord will buy it. Good investor will buy it, and they'll start working with you. So you start cutting out the 80% that is just wasting your time and money, and keep going after the 20% that are making the money, making your life easier. That's just going to help everybody. Like it's just going to keep rising because in the end, the bad landlords, they should just not be owning property.
Yeah, I've had some interesting guests on our show recently, and one of them runs a company basically, he explained to me that investors outside of the US love the US for real estate investing because he said almost nowhere else in the world can you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage that allows you to do a payment that's low enough you could cash flow on it and just start making money right away, month after month. And so they want to be able to get access to this. And so they help them set this up quickly, get an EIN in a week and get everything set up because it's complicated for them to figure that out. There's another company. I had a gentleman named Lior on, really cool guy. Originally from Israel, he's here in the U.S. investor, and he created a company called Blanket. There's this really amazing platform for property managers that they can white label and that they use that allows them. It's like kind of like a property retention platform. So it allows them to put their clients' portfolios into it, get a ton of extra data on their portfolios, and then they can, if they decide they want to sell this property, allows all the other investors in the entire Blanket network to be able to get this, and they get to keep managing that property without having to give it up. So property managers can have the properties turn over and go to different owners and different investors, but they still retain them as that property is in their portfolio to manage. And so there's some really amazing things out there now for property managers. There's amazing tools, systems. We've got a lot of clients getting AI maintenance coordination, using some really cool AI maintenance coordination tools that's allowing, because getting a maintenance coordinator in a property management business, hard. You're talking like ideally it's like they're a veteran of doing maintenance of like 20 years and they don't want to run their own maintenance company and they want to come help you figure out what needs to be done. But there's an AI maintenance coordinator company that has been programmed by a guy who managed 30,000 units coordinating maintenance, all the way from small all the way up to that, a long, lengthy amount of experience. And the system has programmed into it probably by now over 500,000 work orders. And so it knows how to handle this better than probably anybody you could hire. And once you tell it, you still have to train it, you have to teach it, but once you tell it how to handle things, it can do it. And it's now doing phone calls. It's like doing emails. It's doing text. Like it's the craziest thing ever. And so there's this weird sort of AI revolution happening right now. And the smartest property managers are already adopting some of these tools because it allows them to scale their operations effectively. Eventually it'll be so commonplace, everybody's like, yeah, we're all using this stuff and we can all, like, it's cheap enough or whatever. And who knows, maybe we'll all be out of jobs, including property managers, who knows. But right now there's a good opportunity that if property managers are on the bleeding edge of what's working, you get, as an investor, a better property manager.
Well, for
And if
me, like I there are plenty of software out there, Turbo Tenants One, Avails another, Apartments.com, like those are fine. But I don't want to even do
who's
any of that
got to
stuff
do it?
personally. Yeah, as an investor, I don't wanna deal with that stuff. I wanna hire a person, and I honestly, I don't think that AI, even though there's great tools as a property manager to help your business better, like, I don't wanna have AI run my business because I want an actual person that
Yes.
is gonna make sure, like, they have the emotions and feelings that they know, "Okay, there's something here, there's something there, and it's I just know personally, and this is what I teach all my students, is, hey, these software are great if you're going to manage yourself, but you can't scale if you're managing yourself. What we need is to hire the right people. It's all about, like you said earlier, there's a book, it's who, not how. We don't want to figure out the how. We want to get the right people in place. And one last quick thing, that I said this a little bit earlier, but people always ask, well, Dustin, how do you afford this, that, or the other? And the way I don't afford it, I make sure I don't buy a property unless all those expenses are accounted for, like the property manager, to taxes, insurance, and even my profit. I make sure that is in there before I buy the property.
Yeah, we have a ROI calculator that some of our clients use that we built out that already has their fees built into it so that the investors can see what are the benefits of this? What are the tax benefits? How does it cash flow? Like all of this. And then, yeah, and in that, if it's not going to math out, then you just change how much you're putting down, or you're getting a different property, right? And so, but the property management fees, if you're smart, should already be built in.
Absolutely, 100%. And on top of that, again, I have to say your profit. If you're just guessing how much profit you're making, in fact, I always like to be conservative in my expenses higher so I don't get surprised. Oh man, I didn't have this, or my revenue or the income from the rents, I estimate it or be conservative on the lower end. So if I could rent it for 1,300, I run my numbers maybe at 1,250, maybe 1,200, just so I'm not going to be like, oh man, I can't make any money out of this property. Because trust me, it's really easy to overlook something if you're not hiring experts. Like my property managers, they know. Here's a good property manager. I'll say, hey, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property, number one Happy Street. Tell me about it. Will you rent it? How much will it rent for? What's the vacancy factor? Will you manage it? What's the clientele like? Unless great ones will say, oh, you know what? I know that area. In fact, I have a property like one or two streets over. We were trying to rent it for 1,400. Zillow said 1,400, but we couldn't rent it for that. We got 1,300 for it. That's gold. That is so much better information for an investor when a property manager he or she knows exactly what's going on in there on the ground, and that's going to make sure that you're doing everything right. So when you hire the experts, they're going to make sure you do it right, because especially property managers, I would say realtors, we said that a little bit earlier, realtors just want to sell. They just sell for the highest amount. But your property managers, for the longevity of that property, they're taking care of it. They're constantly making sure that it's working for you. So always ask them before you buy the property.
I love that. This is a great message, Dustin. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. I'm pretty confident that our clients and property managers listening to this are going to be like, man, like every investor should listen to do what Dustin says. This would make our lives so much easier. And it makes them feel so much more valuable as a property manager. So I appreciate you sharing a positive message to everybody here on the DoorGrow Show. Anything else that imparting that you would like to say to property managers that might be listening?
Yeah. So one thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier is having a floor of income that's outside of whatever your job or
Yeah.
work, your business, having a floor of income coming in. And what I planned on was I asked my wife, how much money do I need to make every single month in order for me to quit my job? Like what's our expenses like? And I remember the number, plain as day, $4,200, insurance, mortgage, food, like you name it, everything, all of our expenses. I thought, okay, to become
Which would
financially
probably be
independent.
double nowadays.
What's that?
Which would probably be double
Oh,
nowadays.
probably, probably, yeah, definitely. And so I said, okay, this is just math. If I buy one property that made me $500 a month, well, in 1 year, that's $6,000. 10 properties, that is $5,000 a month. Okay, I got 10 properties right there. Then it covers it. That's $60,000 a year in income. 20 properties, that is $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year. That's passive. That's cash flow. That's after expenses. And I thought, my goodness, all I need to do is hit that certain number. And then once I do, I don't have to work anymore. But here's the great thing. I had 40 plus hours of my life back that now I only build businesses that affect me and my family, as opposed to working for somebody else
Mm,
or, having 10 different bosses that are just I'm pulling my hair out. Now, let's say you had properties that of your own and you had your own property management company, you can fire landlords that are taking up so much of your time. You're making $5 a month. It's like, it's not even worth it. Fire them, because you have a floor of income. You are able to move forward. So in the end, when you're investing in real estate, you're going to be able to have a floor of income, which is so much more amazing because you have so many more options. Options are what's going to help you to make sure you scale and level up in life.
love it. Yeah, I think there's few things investment wise that can have as big of a return as having a business. So property managers listening, cool, build your business up, grow that. But if your primary goal is just to get more doors, that's to manage for other people, that I think you're making a mistake. Like your primary goal should be, since you know real estate investing, and they say invest in what you know, you should be stacking your own doors. You should be investing and putting that just a much better store of income for the long term, and it's going to grow. And it's also, if you're making a cash flow, you've already got the systems, you got everything. Like you would make way more money on those units. So you should be building up your own real estate portfolio. One of our clients, he fired most of his third-party clients because he just focuses on using his property management business now as a honey pot or a fly trap. People come to him and say, hey, I've got this rental property. He's like, cool, let me scare the crap out of you of the tax liability if you ever decide to sell it. And maybe you should just, do seller financing with me without talking about seller financing. All right. And so he's just got all these properties. He's just stacking doors and he's making so much money, right? So if you're listening and he's in our program, come be in our program. You get to hang out with this guy and other really amazing people doing amazing things. But if you're a property manager, build your business up, yes, but also build up your real estate portfolio because you're one of the best at this. You're an expert at this. And that puts you in a state of integrity anyway, like if you believe in this stuff. And then build up your portfolio of clients'
Hey,
portfolio.
Jason, would you mind if I gave everybody a real estate investing course completely for free just for listening to the show?
I would not mind that at all.
Awesome. Like I said, my goal is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. I want you to invest. So get my real estate investing course completely for free. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, rental to 33777, rental to 33777. I'll literally give it to you for free. Or you can go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. All one word /masterpassiveincome.com/free course. I'll show you how to find, if you are investing in your area, that's great. But let's say you want to go in another area. I love investing out of state, 5 different states now that I'm investing in, how to build a business everywhere, anywhere in the country, how to scale to become financially independent. You can also find me quickly. I'll just share that Master Passive Income, the podcast. Like, I just love giving out so much more coaching on the podcast. I've had people binge the entire 400 episodes now, Jason, binge all of them and like DM me on Instagram. They'll say, Dustin, just from listening to your podcast, I started investing in real estate. I'm like, yes, that's exactly why I have the show. So yeah, one quick last thing. If you want to DM me, the Dustin Heiner on Instagram. I love chatting with people. I love helping people. And in the end, when we all invest in real estate, everybody wins because we have great properties that people need to rent. We make money, property managers make money. We have a floor of income coming in, but in the end, my goal is to help 1 million people. So it's just another way that I can serve. But honestly, in the end, everybody wins.
I love it. So they can text rental to 33777. They can go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. And they can go to masterpassiveincome.com to check out your stuff. And then the Dustin Heiner.
Correct. More than likely, you'll find me. I'm probably the Dustin. Like if you just type that in. But man, I've been working really hard at Instagram. I find out I actually kind of like it. Oh, kind of. I do like it. I'm almost 200,000 followers now. I didn't buy any of them. Like literally, just hard work, putting in just
Yeah,
great content, helping people.
you're crushing it, man. I'm at 8,000, so I got to figure out how to 10x my goal to that. So I'm working on
Well,
that
we could
too. So
definitely
very,
chat some
very
more.
nice.
I could show you at least some insights of what I've done. But
All
no,
right,
it's been
we'll
great.
keep going.
I would love if your entire audience, all your property managers realize, let's just, it could be as simple as once a year. You just keep one for yourself. You find one, you buy it, and just year after year, you get more and more properties. I think that's a minimum. You should be doing one a year.
So how do we start matchmaking your best investors that get it with my best property managers that get it?
Mm.
This is something for us to think about maybe offline. I don't know.
Yes, we could definitely chat through. What it really comes down to is areas, areas like what cities are they investing in? But let's definitely chat because I think we could have a really good way. Because in fact, while we were on this call, I have Slack, and that's where the community. I've got thousands of students now, but we're in there chatting. I saw one note pop up. Christina, she's been with me for years and years and years. She's doing really well, and she was like, "Oh man, in Cleveland, like I have this property manager. I'm not going to name their name. They're falling apart. I need another property manager." And so what it really comes down to, maybe you just help me and know where they're managing, and then I could just point them to my students.
Or tell that person, if any of your investors see this episode or whatever, tell them to get their property managers to go talk to DoorGrow. Just say, hey, look, you're not doing a great job. I'm actually considering finding another property manager. I think you should go listen to Jason and go talk to DoorGrow and
That's
get
a
your shit
fantastic
together.
idea. Absolutely.
Because here's the thing, property managers do not wake up in the morning saying, I want to have a shitty business today. But most property managers suck. So where's the disconnect? The disconnect is they don't have the right strategies for growth. They're trying to do a bunch of digital marketing. There's very little search volume of people looking for property managers online. And usually the ones that are the worst. They're the cheapest owners that view them as a commodity. They're at the end of the sales cycle. Word of mouth usually captures all the good stuff. So these are the shitty scraps that fell off the word of mouth table. And so they're spending money that they don't really have to get clients that they don't really want. And then they have these portfolios that are really difficult to manage. And so then customer service is the first thing to go out the window because they're struggling. And I call it the cycle of suck. Take on any client, you have bad clients. You take on bad clients, you have bad properties. You have bad properties to deal with, the tenants are not going to be happy. So you have bad tenants, and then you're going to have a bad reputation. And that sums, and then what does that do? Helps you attract more bad owners. And so this sums up the whole industry in aggregate. And that's our mission at DoorGrow, is to disrupt that cycle of suck. And we have a different cycle, a cycle of success, where you're filtering at each stage and improving things at each stage. So
Fantastic, man. I'm super pumped. I'm glad you're doing this because we need good property managers, and property managers need to be buying properties themselves. So I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
awesome. Thanks for being here. All right. So appreciate Dustin hanging out with us. If you felt stuck or stagnant and you want to take your property management business to the next level, reach out to us at doorgrow.com. Or if you're an investor and you're tired of your property manager, but there aren't any other good ones either, then send them to doorgrow.com. Also, join our free community just for property management business owners at doorgrowclub.com. on Facebook. And if you found this even a little bit helpful, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, remember the slowest path to growth is to do it alone. So let's grow together. Bye, everyone.